Okay, so it's now 5 minutes past 12, so we should get started. I'd just like to introduce you all to Elizabeth. Elizabeth is also from Grant Thornton. She's an associate member of the Taxation Institute and an associate director of Grant Thornton. She's a member of the Fringe Benefits Tax Liaison Group, National Liaison Group, and a regular commentator on tax-effective remuneration strategies and FBT in the press. And she has expertise in the not-for-profit sector. And once again, if you think you'll have background noise today, just push *6 to mute the call. We won't actually be able to see Elizabeth today, so you'll just be able to talk to her. And if you have any questions, please feel free to verbalise those. Is there anything you'd like to say before we start, Elizabeth?
One thing I was just thinking when you said if I'm about to have a coughing fit, I'll put myself on mute, but how do I bring myself back again? Is that
*6 again? To unmute.
Okay, beautiful, thanks. All right, well, I think we're ready to get underway then.
Okay, great.
Okay, first of all, just wanted to say that we'll run today hopefully as similarly as possible to the way that Scott ran it yesterday. So obviously you're all online and able to speak up when you've got issues or queries that you want to raise. So feel free to do that over the phone, or if you want to type in a message, if I seem to be in the middle of a big spiel and you want to just jot down a question, just jot it into that messages box and then we'll come back to it and address it when I get a second. So we're up to looking at car parking. So if you're looking through the workbook at the same time as the slides, then by my calculations we should be on page 32. So to kick off then in relation to car parking benefits, and by the way, because Scott and I ran these presentations around the country, I hopefully have a pretty good idea of what he said yesterday, and I'll try not to double up on anything that he's already spoken about, but you can pull me up if I do. So first of all, with car parking fringe benefits, the main issue is to work out whether you even have a benefit in the first place and whether you've got to even worry about FBT. So there's a number of criteria that need to be satisfied to know that you've got a car parking benefit. The first one is that you've actually parked on business premises of the provider, and a lot of people sort of get this a bit mixed up and think that it means that it's got to be on the business premises of the employer as the provider, but that is of course not the case. It's the provider of the parking benefit that's premises you must be on, and that provider might be a separate commercial parking station where, for instance, the employer might have leased a spot for the employee to be able to go and use. So that's the business premises of the car parking operator, who is actually the provider of the benefit, just that the employer is then paying for that. Then we need to know that there's a commercial parking station available for all-day parking within a kilometre of that spot. So the issues that arise there are really, what does it mean to be providing all-day parking as a commercial parking station? And this is becoming more and more an issue for organisations out in the suburbs, because whilst we might sort of traditionally think of car parking as providing for people in the CBD, and most of the CBDs I think around the country have, not all, but most of them have commercial parking stations charging fees for all-day parking that go above the threshold. It's becoming more an issue in the suburbs because shopping centres, etc., are setting themselves up to provide all-day parking, and so all of a sudden, if there's one of those places within a kilometre of where your employees or your clients' employees park, you may have an FBT issue. So we have to be really careful about those sort of organisations and who actually is in the business of providing all-day parking. For instance, a hospital that charges a fee for a short-term stay, maybe an hour or two, and then potentially even has a penalty rate that applies if you stay longer than that. And they might do that because they're trying to discourage people from staying all day, and that's why they have a penalty rate if you stay longer. That sort of arrangement is not providing all-day parking, because they're not actually in the business of wanting to provide all-day parking. Similarly with shopping centres, a lot of them have penalty rates if you stay a longer time than sort of an hour or two. So they're not in the business of providing all-day parking, and we would argue that they're not therefore commercial parking stations as such, and they therefore don't create an FBT problem for the businesses located within a kilometre of them. But for instance, if it's a situation like, for instance, Westfield have started doing in Sydney, at least I know, some of the shopping centres have set aside areas where it is for all-day parking, and there's a flat early bird rate for people who go into that separate area and park for the whole day. And it might be that the shopping centre is located near a train station, for instance, so people go in, park for the day, and then catch the train into work. So that sort of arrangement is specifically to provide all-day parking, and therefore is a commercial parking station as such. And if they're charging more than the threshold of $7.46 this year, then all of a sudden all the businesses within a kilometre have got to look at whether they've been providing car parking fringe benefits to their staff, who are allowed to park, maybe just in some car parks outside the front door of the business. So a real live issue that's popping up. We'll get on to later on valuation methods, and I guess that's in a way that organisations try and tackle that issue. We've just had someone else join us, have we? Someone else just join in? No, maybe not. Maybe
There might have
left.
been a little bit of background noise there somewhere in somebody's office.
Yeah. Okay, so the main issue, or the main way that organisations would tackle this issue of suddenly being into the net of having car parking fringe benefits is to look at the valuation and potentially look at getting a market valuation done, which might even value their car parks at zero to address this and ensure that they don't have to pay FBT on the car parking provided to their employees. But, unfortunately that does mean that they've got to go to that extra step and pay for somebody to give them a market valuation, which, they never had to consider before. It's always been an issue for businesses located to the near to the airports because of the long-term car parking provided there. So that would be daily parking, and the businesses within a kilometre have traditionally therefore sought these market valuations to ensure that they're minimising their FBT on car parking and perhaps even getting it to zero. So that's the next threshold point covered, I guess, or criteria covered, so that we know that we're within a kilometre of a commercial parking